Oh, sorry. Are you recording?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Louise.
And hi, I'm Emma.
And you're listening to Murder or Myth,
The true crime podcast where not everything is true.
The aim of the game is to find out whether the story is actually a murder or if it's just a myth.
Now, let's get into it.
This is making me realise, like, there's a certain way you have to talk for the podcast that's much slower. Like, when I just said, are you recording? Like, it's just, like, that's not audible. I wonder if that's just, like, how we always talk, but we just compute it fast enough. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure I computed that fast enough. I think we're doing okay. I think we speak a bit more clearly or try to.
Yeah, like...
But then when we get
try
into
and
the
project.
body of our story, it might go
It gets a bit
downhill,
like, yeah.
because we forget ourselves.
Okay, how are you doing anyway, Emma?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Right. We're all in a good space to start off the story. So, this story is set in France in the late 1980s onwards.
Okay.
So, Michel, I believe you pronounce it?
Yeah, I think so.
Fourniret was born in Sedan, France, to a metal-working father and a homemaker mother. He was a clever child who liked music and chess, but was seen as quiet. In his adult years, he had a few jobs, including school supervisor and working in forestry. In 1966, he was arrested for sexually assaulting a young girl. Again in 1984, he was serving time for crimes against 5 other women. During this time, he opted into a prison pen pal service where he began corresponding with a woman called Monique Olivier. She was the one he wrote to regularly. Okay. He told her his awful fantasies of torturing, kidnapping and murdering young girls in the letters between them. Monique said she would help him carrying out such plans if he would kill her husband.
Oh my god, I'm shocked.
Shock. Visible shock.
What's a prison pen pal service? I'm just going to assume it's like you get a pen pal outside of prison just to keep, like...
Yeah, like the prisoners write to people that sign up for this. So, like, they're just civilians, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how you get into it, to be honest with you.
I think it's just, like, I'm assuming it's just a volunteer thing.
Yeah. So, in 1987, Michel got out of prison and he and Monique began a relationship as well as a crime duo, with Monique being Michel's accomplice. So that same year, the two targeted a girl called Isabelle Laville, 17-year-old girl walking home from school. They drove in 2 separate cars with Monique asking for directions and getting the girl into the car. They then stopped to find Michel broken down, seemingly, where he got into their car. He choked the girl before Monique sedated her. He then raped and strangled her before disposing of the body in a disused well.
This is a horrific story.
Yeah. Not great. In 1988, Michel was contacted by Farda, the wife of his former cellmate. She wanted help retrieving a haul of money in a cemetery that had been hidden by a gang. She gave Michel a share of the money for helping, but it wasn't enough for him. He and Monique set off to rob the remaining money from her, and in doing so lured her to her death and buried her body. In August of that year, the two used a fake illness to lure a 20-year-old woman into their car where they kidnapped her, sexually assaulted, and then shot her to death. They murdered 3 more innocent women in the 1989 to 90 period in France, while they also got married in this time period. These were the last murders that took place with Monique's involvement. Michel murdered 2 more girls in the early 2000s separately. Both the girls were on their way home from school and were lured into his van. He strangled both girls and dumped their bodies in a local forest. In 2003, Michel attempted the kidnapping of a 13-year-old girl but failed and was promptly arrested. An interrogation ensued, but nothing came up until 2004 when Monique confessed that her husband had killed many people since 1987. He confessed to killing 8 women and an unidentified man. The 2 were arrested and assisted in helping the police find the bodies of the victims that were still missing. So all in all, 7 out of 8 victims were found, and in 2008 the trial began. Michel was sentenced to life without parole on 7 life sentences, and Monique the same with parole after 20 years. Before his death in 2021, he confessed to 3 more murders that had happened. And in 2023, his former accomplice, Monique, went to trial for these newly unearthed crimes. She was handed a second life sentence for her part in these murders. And that is the end of the story.
That is a deeply, deeply disturbing story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna immediately go with murder.
Real. No basis.
Yeah, I do have a basis, sorry. It was, like, quite specific.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were laughing.
No, I'm not laughing. It's not laughing matter.
It was, number one, quite horrific, which maybe you would have wrote. It just had a lot of, like, quite bad, gory detail that I feel like maybe you wouldn't have included. And, like, there's nothing that's leaning me towards myth, like, nothing that doesn't seem...
Mm-hmm. Out of
like,
place.
Yeah, out of place, or, like, kind of not plausible for the story. And then also, like, again, quite specific, which I guess is similar to the reason I gave for the combustion one, and I was wrong there, but, like, the prison pen pal service, the money in the cemetery, things like that were just very, like, unusual details.
Yeah, to add in
And to have come up with. Unless, of course, it's very well based off another story. But I'm going to say murder. Final answer.
Yeah, it is murder.
Why would you pick that?
Yeah, I didn't realise how bad it was until I was actively in it, and I was like, it's too late now. Because
it's a horrible story.
I picked it based off an article that I wanted to use, like, 2 different countries were, you know, like, bungled an investigation.
What was the other story?
No.
Sorry, what was the other country?
This was just, see, the article was a victim of his was from England, and they said had the police done their job initially, the, like, latter victims wouldn't have been murdered. But as I started writing it, and then I was about halfway through, I was like, no, this is just someone who killed a bunch of people awfully. So I couldn't really stop then because I wasn't prepared enough. But it wasn't great.
A warning in before these, but I guess, like, it's the nature of the podcast. It's a true crime podcast.
Yeah, we do say it's not for kids and it's explicit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to read fully through stories before I do them next, I think.
Well,
might be the move.
Well, thanks for listening, everyone. Hope that didn't, like, disturb you too much. Make sure to like and subscribe.
And this week's episode, Louise correctly guessed this was in fact a murder story.
Find us on all streaming platforms.
Join us next week for another thrilling adventure.
Remember, it's myth until proven murder.
Slay.